Hello, my name is Steph Paperno, and I am joined by my colleague, Sarah Opperly. We are here today to discuss the Central Golden Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Project. The city hosted an open house for this project on June 18th and a second open house on December 9th. We will discuss the reason for the project as well as the updated design following the input received at both the June and December open houses, as well as through the Guiding Golden platform.
The city has recognized the need to improve this corridor for over a decade. It was first identified as a priority in 2010, and the vision for this protected bike lanes on Fort and Jackson were included in the 2023 Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan. The corridor has been a key area to focus on due to the number of pedestrian and bicycle crashes. There have been 7 crashes along the corridor since 2018, 4 involving a cyclist and a driver collision, and 3 involving pedestrian driver collisions.
Through our various conversations with the community, vehicle speeding has reportedly been brought to our attention as a main concern. In a recent speed study, we did see that the 85th percentile speed is 2 to 4 miles over the speed limit on most of the corridor, with speeds up to 7 miles per hour over the speed limit between 24th and 21st Streets, the blocks closest to the high school. Based on the Federal Highway Administration's Bicycle Selection Guide, the vehicle speeds and volumes for this corridor indicate that a protected bike lane is recommended.
A protected facility provides a buffer between the bicycle lane and the travel lane. There are a variety of treatments and buffer types that can be used, but we are proposing a combination of flex posts, the vertical reflective posts, as well as concrete blocks, as shown in the first image at the top.
Protected bike lane provides the highest level of comfort outside of a shared use path or trail. The quality of the bicycle facility selected will impact the level of comfort and, by extension, the amount of people in the community who will benefit from it and use it. The graphic on the left show that when the region was surveyed, almost 60% of people are interested but concerned and are most likely to choose bicycling if there is a protected facility.
This slide shows the current condition of Ford Street. There are 2 travel lanes, 12-foot wide and 11.5-foot wide, a parking lane, and an unprotected bike lane. The unprotected bike lane is often blocked by trash cans, as you can see in the picture. This causes cyclists to swerve into the travel lane to avoid them. Additionally, given the geometry of the roadway and the widths of the lanes currently, the parking lane is very narrow and causes vehicles to protrude into the traffic lanes. The proposed design involves eliminating the parking lane to make room for that protected buffer. The buffer would provide space for the trash cans, as you can see in the picture, so that they do not have to block the bicycle lane. This proposal also includes reducing the travel lane widths from a 12-foot lane to an 11-foot lane and an 11.5-foot lane to 11-foot lane, which can help reduce vehicle speeds.
The current condition on Jackson Street includes 2 travel lanes, a parking lane, and an unprotected bike lane. Bulb outs were added in 2011 to reduce the crossing distance for pedestrians and to reduce turning speeds. The bulb outs are tricky to navigate during snow events and are often damaged by large vehicles and plows. The parking lane on Jackson is also very narrow and causes vehicles to protrude into the travel lanes. The proposed design involves eliminating the bulb outs to make space for a protected bike lane. We will eliminate the existing parking lane to provide space for the necessary bike lane buffer. The proposal also includes going to 1 travel lane between 15th Street and 19th Street. This section experiences a high number of pedestrian crossings due to the grocery store location and the School of Mines dorm and campus buildings. The map on the left shows the floodplain, both the 100-year floodplain in blue and the 500-year floodplain in yellow. there are requirements for the city to not add additional vertical rise in the floodplain areas. As a result, we are looking at adding depressed green infrastructure elements that allow us to provide a separated barrier, but still meet that no rise requirement. Next, we will walk through the 60 to 70% design plans in more detail. These are the same plans that we showed at the December 9th open house.
So we'll start with the 14th and Ford intersection. Here, this intersection is within the floodplain. Some elements of design are contingent upon a no-rise condition to ensure that we're not impacting the floodplain. So there are opportunities to add green infrastructure in some of these hashed areas. The proposal for the intersection includes eliminating the left turn onto 14th Street and adding this middle island refuge that prohibits through movement across the intersection. This allows all three directions that pedestrians are typically crossing to have some sort of refuge before they cross the next lane of traffic. Here, if you've been in this area, you'll notice that there are stairs here. In order to make this ADA compliant, we're taking the sidewalk, pulling it towards the street, making it attached, and then bringing it back up. There are also brick pavers through this area, which we will eliminate in place of a 6-foot wide concrete sidewalk. Most of the curb ramps, nearly all of them along the corridor between 14th and 24th are substandard and not ADA compliant. In many places, there are stairs or they are incredibly steep ramps. We are, as part of the design, making all of these crossings ADA compliant. In a few locations, they're not going to be ADA compliant on the downstream crossing of Ford, but in those locations, the other 3 out of the 4 crossings will be ADA compliant. Given the grades of the existing conditions at these intersections, there is the potential and the necessity to remove trees. In locations where we have potential tree removal, we are working diligently to see what sort of engineering and design we can change to save those trees. But at many locations, there will be tree removals at these intersections, as shown in the pictures above. Again, in many locations, 16th and 17th, we will have to include some sort of small bulb out in order to make the ramps ADA compliant across the side streets. Here at 22nd, there's an RTD bus stop. It's a little funky, set back from the roadway. So as part of the project, we are improving the space and putting in ADA compliant ramps, as well as an ADA compliant ADA compliant sidewalk to the bus stop. Lastly, up here between 23rd and 24th, we have made some arrangements to push the sidewalk out a little bit into the bike buffer space in order to save 4 mature trees along this property. The plans propose removing the parking lane along Ford to make room for that protected bike lane. This means that the proposed width of the bike lane is 7 feet wide with a 5-foot buffer and 11-foot lanes. The city is committed to clearing the bike lane of snow and debris, and the bike lane width is wide enough to accommodate our snow removal equipment as well as our street sweeper. The concrete blocks, as you can see here, are placed approximately 5 feet apart in order to allow bicyclists to merge back into the travel lanes as they approach a desired left turn, or cyclists are able to conduct a 2-stage turn if they don't want to merge across 2 lanes. I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie, and she is going to walk through Jackson Street.
Great, thanks, Sarah. So as mentioned in one of the earlier slides, we are going to convert the current 2 travel lanes from 15th to 19th to 1 travel lane. Where you can see the green highlighted areas, this is where we are proposing that green infrastructure. As you can see in these 2 images, these are just examples of what that could look like, but we are still working out the different design details for what exactly this could be. So you'll also see here in this section that between 15th and 16th Street, we are upgrading that sidewalk to 6 feet because the current sidewalk is substandard. And then you'll see on here some of these dashed areas. The dashed areas where Sarah's cursor Yep, right where that cursor is a bus stop. And so the dashing allows for the bus to pull into the protected bike lane, pick up the passengers, and then merge back into the travel lane after 17th Street. And then over by the intersection right here, this is where we have a kind of island type median that is currently a sidewalk. We're proposing widening that so that it's wide enough for bicyclists to mount it and then remerge into the protected bike lane, but also make it wide enough for pedestrians to use this space as well. And then here is another example of a bus stop where we have the dashed lines where a bus will come through, merge into the protected bike lane, and then remerge into the travel lane. You can see here that we are removing those bulb outs. That is allowing us to shift the travel lanes and make room for the protected bike lane and that barrier. So we are proposing, in order to make space for that protected bike lane buffer, we are eliminating the parking along Jackson Street. Unlike Ford, no trees will need to be removed for this section of the project. And then lastly, the end limits of our project is 24th Street. And you can, if you zoom in a little bit, Sarah, you'll see that this entire intersection is elevated and raised to make it easier to see pedestrians as they're crossing. The bulb outs will remain, those are in place today, but we will be slightly modifying the curb to make them mountable for large vehicles like plows and the school bus. And then we're directing bicyclists across the intersection with that green conflict marking paint and then up onto the existing sidewalk and shared use path there.
So to conclude, we'll be incorporating comments from our December 9th open house into the next iteration of design, and we'll present the final design documents early in the new year. We hope to begin construction early fall of 2025. Thank you.